is if it's not labeled which is x and which is y, the first column will always be x and the second column will always be y. Okay? If it was a horizontal table, the top would be x and the bottom would be y. That's just mathematically how they've decided to work things out as like a formal way to do things. So x on the left or x on the top will always be the scenario. That helps then when you have to create your scatter plot. So if you look down here now, I'm going to make my scatter plot. X's are days absent, so that's going to be my title for my x-axis. And because the highest number I have is 10, I can go by single digits because I have 10 lines here. My y-axis title is going to be grade on the exam. The highest value I have here is 90, so I decided to go by tens, so I at least get up to 90. I'll be over 90, but I'll at least get there. And then I'm going to take, these are all considered ordered pairs, so I'm going to take them and plot them. So hopefully your scatter plot looked a little bit like that. Now I'm going to use this scatter plot to answer some true or false questions. So when I go over here, does the data have a positive association? True or false? False. The data has a negative association. True. The data has a linear association. True. Data has a nonlinear association. False. You see how this is working? The data has no association. That's going to be false. Remember that no association would just have points randomly around here. There would be no rhyme or reason. On average, students that were absent more days had a higher score on the exam. False. On average, students that were absent more days had lower score. Oh, thank you. That should be false. And then this one, of course, would be true. Correctly draw a line that fits. So I'm going to get my ruler out here. Remember, my goal is to get a line that's as close to as many points as possible. I'm not going to want a line up here. Why wouldn't my line go up here? Why wouldn't that make sense? Well, I can't see the y-intercept, and can you get more than 100 on a test? No. So I'm going to keep my line as close as I can to as many points and also to have it make sense, right? So I've got my line of best fit here. So I'm going to put a check mark because I did that. Now I'm going to write an equation. So I need slope and I need y-intercept for my slope-intercept form. Remember, this is y equals mx plus b. I will give you that on the quiz, this formula. So I'm going to go back over here to my scatter plot. I'm going to look for two perfect intersections. I'm going to use this right here and this right here. This is where you and I might not be on the same exact journey because your line is, it'd be crazy if your line was identical to mine. As long as you do the process correct, you will get full points. Does everybody understand that? Process is what I'm grading right now. So when I do this, I keep in mind that this is 10 points and this is 2 absences. So negative 10 over 2, which simplifies to negative 5. I know people got different than I did. Tell me what you got as your slope if it's different though. You also got negative 5? Did anybody get negative 10?
I got negative 20 over 3.
Perfect. I'm so glad you said that. So let's pretend your slope is something super ugly, like negative 20 over 3. What I would encourage you to do, Emma, is simplify this to about negative 7. Why would I simplify it to about negative 7?
Because 3 times
Right.
I mean, -7 times 3
Yep.
-21, and that's relatively close.
It's pretty close, right? So if you get a really ugly fraction that you don't want to deal with, come up with the closest whole number to what that would equal. Okay, so let's pretend you had -29 over 3. What's my slope going to be?
10.
-10, right? So estimate if you need to. My y-intercept is, I'm going to say 0.99. It's really close to 100, right? Maybe not quite 100, so I'm going to just say 99, because why not? So then when I put that together, my equation is -5x plus 99. Any questions about this first page of the study guide? Because your quiz is going to be extremely similar to this tomorrow. All right, turn the page. Let's look at number 5 together. This is a little bit different. We haven't quite covered these yet, so that's why there's 2 of these on the study guide. What does it mean to interpret something?
Basically, just like state in it.
Yeah. Meaning in context. Meaning, what do the numbers mean in relationship to the scenario of absences and exam grades? Noah, are you following along here? Okay, can you close your iPad for me? Is it closed? Okay, thank you. So I'm going to refresh my memory. My slope is -5 over 1. Write it as an improper fraction. It'll make sense in a minute. Put that -7 or that -10 or whatever over 1. Got that, Chase?
I have -2 over 3.
That's fine. It'll still work.
Okay.
Okay. So then the numerator stands for my y value info. The denominator stands for my x value info. What's the title of my y-axis? Grades on the exam. So if I have a -5 and it relates to my y value, how can I put that into words? What does this -5 stand for? By what? 5% lower on the exam, right? And I said lower because the grades are dropping and it's a negative. If the grades had been higher, it would be, if it was increasing, it'd be 5% higher. And the x value is, what's the title for my x value? For 1 day absent. So that's what it means in the context. According to what we did with the scatter plot and the trend line and the equation, my grade is going to be 5% lower every day, extra day I'm absent. According to this data, that's what we can expect. Right? So if you can't remember, go back and look at your graph. It tells you what those things stand for, what those numbers represent. My y-intercept was 0.99. What does that mean in the context of the story? This is my x value, this is my y value. So you can go back and look, what are my x values meaning? What does my y values mean? Emma?
The y-intercept means that's like the highest grade that you possibly get.
0 days absent, 99% on exam. That's what that stands for. The 0 means there were no absences. The 99 is the grade. have an outlier for this data?
Yeah.
What is it, Vinny? Sure. It doesn't ask you to explain it, but I'm going to go ahead and explain it for you. 8 days absent, 80% on exam. And that's clearly an outlier because the trend is if you had 8 days absent, your grade would be much lower. Right? Liam, what are you doing down there?
What?
You making that noise?
The water bottle.
Please stop. Thank you. Now we're going to use our equation to figure out what if a student had 14 absences. So I'm going to rewrite my equation. I had negative 5x plus 99. You're going to write down whatever yours was. So Chase, whatever yours was, you would have negative 2x plus 2/3 x plus something, or negative 7x for Emma, or whatever else you guys might have. Where am I going to put this 14?
And spot with that.
Yep. Exactly. Because absences is part of my x-axis. And then I'm going to use my calculator here. And this student would get a 29%. That's what it's predicted. 29% on exam. Okay. So Chase, do you know how to do yours with a fraction? So you would do 2 divided by 3, and then just leave that in your calculator and multiply times 14. And then you would add whatever you got. Okay. Yes.
So, wait, so you just multiply.
Wait, I think yours should be 20 over 3. Did you do 2 lines down? That's worth 10, 20.
Yeah. You do it.
So you probably should have what Emma did. Because each line down is worth 10.
Oh.
So yours is going to be about negative 7 as well.
That makes more sense.
It does make more
I
sense.
did negative 7 times 14. I got negative 98. So that would be 2%.
Sure would, because that's what your data shows. Yep, that's a low grade. Okay, now we're going to look at number 8. We have these 3 scatter plots, and we're going to match them up to these scenarios down here. Which scatter plot has data with a positive association? C. Which one has data with a negative association? A. It's nonlinear, but it's negative, right? It's dropping. Which one has linear? So please throw the water bottle away. Just throw it away.
I didn't do anything. Can I just put it somewhere else? I want to fill it up later.
Put it on the ledge. Thank you. The data has a linear association. Which graph? Which scatter plot? C. The data has a nonlinear association. Okay. The data has no association. B. That is clearly random. The data contains an outlier. C. Go ahead and make a point to this. Draw an arrow and write outlier. So you remember that it's a point that lies outside the trend. Outlier. Which data contains a cluster? B. Go ahead and draw a circle and write cluster around it. Right? 2, 3 points all in the same area. Kind of like that, the measurements of the TVs. Remember we did that? There was a cluster around 30-inch televisions and the price. Okay, so I also created a second study guide, but I made a little bit of a mistake on it. So do you guys see where this says 9 cups, 55? Cross out 55 and make that 50, just so that you can have nice equal increments on the x and y axis. Then leave it. If you already graphed it, then leave it. Did you just make like a line for 55 and put it there? Did you say you already graphed it?
Yeah, I already got all of them.
That's fine. Just leave it.
Is this homework?
Well, no, hopefully we're going to finish it here.
Okay.
Okay, so again, we have our x values and our y values. X on the left, y on the right. So my x title is going to be food per week. And I can go by single increments because it only goes up to 9 cups. I don't need more than that. My y-axis will be dog's weight. I'm going to have to go by 5-digit increments because I need to go as high as 50. And then I'm going to go ahead and plot them. I'm going to go ahead and draw my trend line. Clearly it's going to go through 0, right? 0 food, 0 weight. So then you're going to try to match this up as best you can to as many points as possible. Not pretty, but it works. Now I'm going to answer the questions. The data has a positive association. True. The data has a negative association. The data has a linear association. The data has a nonlinear association. The data has no association. On average, dogs that ate more weighed more. True. On average, dogs that ate less weighed less. True. So this is what your true false should look like. So you're going to want to read those questions carefully.
Yeah, the last one's real.
Yep. Don't assume. We can go ahead and check off number 3 because we already did their trend line. We're going to find our slope and our y-intercept again. Paying really close attention to the increments. I'm going to use this point and this point. They just happen to be on my line, and they happen to already be points.
What if I don't go through any of them exactly, but they're off by just a tiny?
Pick the closest ones. Yep. Oops, this is 10 over. So my slope is 10 over 2, which equals 5. Remember, these are 5, 10 increment, and then 1, 2. And then my y-intercept is 0, 0. Did anybody get a different slope than 10 over 2?
I got 4 over 1. I got 5 over
5 over 2? Okay. Were you only went up one line? Okay. Again, as long as it matches your trend line, that's what I'm looking for. So my equation is going to be 5x, or you could put 5x plus 0 if you really want to have that y-intercept value. And now I'm going to answer these last few questions. My slope is 5 over 1. Remember, that's the y value info over the x value info. So this is going to be 5 pounds heavier. For every extra pound of food.
On like the test, we just write 5 or do we have to like do that?
Like I need to know what the 5 stands for. Yep. So that's the whole, like you're telling me what does that 5 represent? For my y-intercept, no food, no weight. Pretty easy. I don't have any outliers. I'm going to use my equation to find out how much a dog that eats 6 cups of food would weigh. And I'm going to get 30 pounds. Okay, I'm going to come around with your study checklist. One of the items on the study checklist is to get your study guide signed by an adult.